Mm-hmm.
So you'll see quite a few of the stories we make are also in Afrikaans. So those are the only two languages that English and Afrikaans. So you'll see the stories in those two languages.
I have a colleague who lived in South Africa for. He was born in Portugal, but then his family moved to South Africa, and it was very interesting to observe because I have another colleague who is Dutch and how they used to communicate, and apparently Afrikaans is like old Dutch, but
Correct.
but people from the Netherlands can understand it, so you can
Yes,
communicate. It's like
yes,
speaking a bit of ancient language. It was very
correct.
interesting to perceive it. Um, Now I know that you live off grid in a way.
Correct.
What it feels like to live off grid.
Well, it feels incredible. Firstly, it's a privilege to be able to live off grid, right? To be able to live away from an urban area, it's a privilege. You know, not everyone can afford to own a piece of land away from an urban environment, and to be able to work like we do. First, I just want to acknowledge my privilege to be able to do that. But for us, it is more of a purposeful life for us. You know where your water comes from. You have to collect the wood to make a fire. You see one right behind me. You know where your electricity comes from. You are involved in every stage of the resources that you use. And also, it gives you things to do. So, in fact, you have less distractions because more of your time is used doing the stuff you need to do. You know, someone needs to go and get the wood to make a fire. Someone needs to make sure the water is flowing. So you're not always just inside on your computer or scrolling through TikTok or whatever. You almost doing the things that are meaningful. And
Hmm.
they're almost like little meditations every day. And so for us, it's an old way of living, but a meaningful way of living. And it's definitely a choice. We want to live like this because it makes us happy and purposeful. And also, it's because we have met hundreds of people in our journey over the last few years. We have seen how they live. We've asked them what is important in life. And it's really steered us in that direction.
Wow, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Because some time to time I think about it as well. What it would feel like to live off grid. I had a bit of touch that when we go to my wife's grandparents' place. They live also like in a very rural village. You know, they grow their own potatoes, their own tomatoes, cucumbers. So if you want to make a salad, you just go pick them up, chop them, and it's completely different. But obviously, living off grid, you have certain, um, let's say, modernizations like electricity,
Yes, of course. We have,
presumably.
yes, we've got internet dish on our roof that, is able to pick up internet far away. And we have solar panels and big lithium batteries that store our power. Um, So yes, we are modern in that sense, and we have a laptop, but we don't have a television. We don't have a television. We don't have an electric kettle or a toaster or a lot of these modern things. We just don't have. Mostly because they take a lot of power, and we don't have that much power. But also, it distracts you from. We've chosen to live like this so that nature is really our entertainment, or where we find purpose, just being able to notice the seasons, to be here. So we look out the window a lot. So yeah, but we have technology, we have a vehicle that we can jump in, and if we need to go to town, we can drive, or so. And if we really have to travel overseas, then we'll go to the airport. I've just come back from Singapore. I was there for a
Oh
month
wow.
in a very urban environment, which is very, very different from where I live. And yes, we could do that. So when we need to, I go off and make the films, and Justine does all the editing.
How did you feel being in Singapore? Because it's such a drastic change for you coming from this area and landing in such a urbanized uh, country.
I actually really loved it. I just love. I think in life, when you do things out of your comfort zone, when you
Hmm.
leave your home, when you have these different experiences with different cultures, firstly, it breaks all the stereotypes that you might have. You might say Asian people live like this, or Chinese people are like that, or Indian people, or Malay people. And you realize that all of us are the same. We are all human. We have the same universal feelings of joy, hope, love, all of these things. So I loved meeting the people. I also gave me a glimpse into the future. Singapore is very advanced in terms of just being quite modern, trying to incorporate the environment into these huge urban cities that just function. So it was a bit of a kind of a glimpse into where the world is going. Most people aren't going to live off grid like we do in the mountains. Most people are going to live in an urban city. And so I was able to sort of look through the door, look through the keyhole and kind of see where the world is going, and sort of what do they do for entertainment? What brings them joy? So it was fascinating, and it also challenged me as a filmmaker to tell different stories, tell an urban story. We did 10 films
Hmm.
in the month that I was there. So they're also quite different to some of the other stories we've done, which have been more focused in nature or people living off
Hmm.
grid. So I really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, you come home and you appreciate what you have, but if we are going to connect on a global level, we need to tell stories of humanity. And our big dream is that anyone can go and watch a story about someone who looks like them, that lives in a place that is similar to how they live, that is talking about things that they are also dealing with. And so we need to tell global stories. So it doesn't help you just stay in your town and only tell stories in your village. You need to be able to tell global stories. And I had to go to Asia and tell some Asian stories, which I really enjoyed.
Well, isn't that the essence of just simply understanding that our physical appearance is just our physical appearance, and who we are inside, and what we go through life in general are really universal. I think that's why certain poets, writers, certain artists in general, they speak to all generations because they touch the notion of love, hate, envy, pride, joy, happiness. All human traits found in all of us, uh,
Correct.
to a certain extent. I also I also had this thought about Singapore that they really could be seen as an example of how to balance nature and urbanization. because we cannot also neglect the aspect of urbanization. It's just part of us, and I also agree that some people are addicted to living in an urban environment, and if you take them where you live, they would, after a few days, they would go, they would want to run away into the wilderness.
Correct.
By the way, I wanted to ask you, do you encounter some, or do you have around some big animals? I don't know, a bear or
No, so where we are, we have like this morning, we have baboons. Baboons are
baboons?
very large primates, and they like in a group of 50, and therefore,
Wow.
we can't grow a lot of our own vegetables outside because it will be eaten by the baboons. We also have leopards, which are smaller than lions. They live in the mountains, but they eat the farmers' sheep, and they eat the local antelope that are around us. But we don't have elephants or
Hmm.
anything like that. But yes, we are still there is still wild animals that are
Mm-hmm.
not fenced, that are still roaming and living like they always have, and it's very, it's a privilege to still live in a place where you can see wild animals.
And the
So
amount of
yes,
space when you
exactly,
showed me the video
E-
is
exactly,
it's just to
exactly.
wake up and look at it in the morning. It's also, I grew up by the sea, and I think that affected me in the way that when you look at the sea, you don't have, in a way, a reference point, if you know what I mean. You kind of your and I think that also affects your mind. Or for example, in Malta in general, if you're in the middle of it and you had to go out, just 10 meters in front of you, there is another building. You look through the window, most probably there is a building in front. So I think that also kind of narrows the mind in a specific way. When you can look at the vastness, it's kind of also like broadens. And I think it's very, very important in that respect. Um, so before traveling to Asia, you were primarily focusing uh, on Africa.
Well, yes, since the pandemic, we stayed in Africa or South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and South Africa is a very, very large country, very cosmopolitan in terms of just different people that live here. We have many, many official languages. We have people from all over the world who live here. So it gives you the opportunity to still be able to tell stories of a global nature because there's so many different people living in this
Mm-hmm.
country. But before the pandemic, we did do stories in New Zealand, Scotland, St Helena Islands, Faroe Islands, in a few different places,
Mm-hmm.
and going forward, we want to do many more global stories. It just really depends on, can we afford to travel there, and does it make sense to go and you know everyone has a story, and we would love to showcase our global humanity. So it's really telling stories of the world, and but you've got to start slow, and if you can travel, then you travel. It's not always easy going to a different country and finding stories if you don't live there, if you don't know the culture and the people.
Do you, when you travel, do you spend a little bit of time to get a glimpse of let's say that culture or the people you're going to film? I mean, just a little bit. Do you meet them before? You chat a little bit with them, or it's just quite quite fast? Because now we went to Singapore, did 10 videos in 1 month, so that's quite hectic, I would say. And
Yeah.
I assume you do the editing afterwards.
Yes,
You finish
yes.
filming, then you come back with the material, and then you work on it.
Yes, so I travel alone and I will meet many, many people. I normally meet 10 people and make one story. So my my job is to do the research and the filming. And as soon as I have finished a film, I send it. When I was in Singapore, the internet is very fast. So I could, in the evening, I could be uploading the films for Justine back in South Africa to download and start editing,
Mm-hmm.
especially listening to the interviews and starting to construct a 10-minute story from a 2 hour conversation. Um, so that's how we work. In terms of understanding the culture and a sense of place, I'm never a tourist. I'm there to meet people, and I'm invited into their home. I spend authentic quality time with them because they are real people and they talk about life. So I really have a kind of a view of someone's real life, and I'm able to do that 10 times in a country. So I really go away from that country really knowing what local people do, what do they do with their family? Where do they go to find, joy? They might go to the beach, they go to the forest, they might go into the shopping center. So I'm doing things with the people. And so I really do come away with a different view of a country because I've been immersed. I've really been immersed with them, and I've also asked real hard questions. I'm not just there to see the pretty side of a place. I'm really there to find out what brings a person meaning or what's important in life.
How do you how do you find those people,
Um,
or they come to you?
it's very difficult. I just go on my gut feeling. I think for it to work, we need to be able to connect on a level. And so sometimes you might see a little video of them before or an article or something that gives you an idea that that person can talk from an authentic place. We also not trying to showcase famous people. It really is your next door neighbor. It could be the postman, the fisherman, the man who makes you coffee, or the woman. And so research is the most difficult part. But as soon as you meet one person, they will really understand what you are doing, and they will say, "Go and meet my sister," or "Go and meet the baker," or and so it's like a spider
Oh,
web that opens up, and everyone is connected. So really, the bigger thing is getting there and meeting the first one or two people, and I will film with someone in the morning and then I'll leave them, and then in the afternoon I'll be meeting 10 other people, and then I'll film with one of those the next day. So I'll be doing 3 or 4 films at the same time,
oh wow.
so that it's not intense with one person. I will see them in the morning and then I'll leave them for the rest of the day. I'll go and film with someone else, or I'll go and meet someone else. So I'm doing, 3 or 4 films at the same time and then researching. And so that's how it works.
Very interesting. I guess it also because you touch some um, difficult questions, as you said,
Yeah.
themes. It's not only like so you give a person a break in a way just to reflect on it, just to think about it. Um, Now those themes, how they come to your mind, and how do you kind of choose which one to apply to a person, and you think that might work because some might I think to for a person to open up, there is a matter of trust in another person, and some, let's say, wounds or experiences are painful to talk about. Also, it is healing at the same time. But anyway, you're quite kind of in a way outsider, you know, which they're talking up quite about deep things, and I think it's also very amazing, which portrays that you're a trustful person, which people tend to open up with. But how do you select the themes, let's say, or apply to a person?
So we never know what the theme is going to be.
Okay.
No idea. None. When we decide to have a conversation with someone, when I decide to sit down and ask someone questions, firstly, I don't have a list of questions, and I hope to know as little about their particular story as possible because I want them to tell me things for the first time. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want them to repeat something that we've already spoken about. I think it helps, as you said, that I'm a stranger, that I am there to listen, most importantly. And so it's almost like going to confession if you were Catholic and you walked into the cubicle. You can't see the priest, but you're just telling him or her, you know, what you need to tell them. Or it's like going to see, you know, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and you're just able to talk. It's good that I'm there to listen, and it's good that I'm a stranger and they probably will never see me again. It's also good that they can trust me because they can see a body of work of 250 stories, so they know what it is that we do. And also, they have the assurance that they will be the first people to ever see the story we make. And if they like it, it gets shared with the world. And if they don't, it never goes anywhere else. So, firstly, there's a safety net, that they know that they can trust us and they can see it first. Also, if they don't want their name to be put there, or if they don't want people to know where they live, they can stay anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the way that we ask the questions is I'm just inquisitive about life. And like you spoke about those poets who are looking for these universal themes, I'm looking for those moments where people struggle in life. Like, what were the hardest, most challenging moments that caused them pain or just challenges? Why? How did it make them feel? And then also, I'm interested in the most joyful moments, love, joy, meaning, purpose. And so I will ask questions around those two themes. And when someone gets really excited about connection with something, then we go down that rabbit hole. And I have a long conversation, and I give that entire conversation to Justine, and she chooses the 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the story. So we never know what that is going to be, but you will know when you speak to someone or you listen, the moment they get really, really emotional about a topic, or that is what the story becomes.
So then you even you don't know the final outcome when you give the material. You don't know what.
No.
It's like I read one poet used to do it. He used to, before publishing a book, he would give like, I don't know, 100 poems to his editor, and then said, "Listen, choose, you know, arrange it as you feel like." And then it's so fascinating, you know, because you do the work, and then you yourself don't know the outcome. I want to also ask where the decision of not to incorporate questions in the video come from, because it's very interesting to watch your videos, but there are no kind of question asked, at least the videos I have seen. And for me, it's a very beautiful feature as well, because the kind of the narration is with the person you're filming.
Yes, so we made a conscious decision 5 years ago not to do any paid work. And so, what we mean by that is no work that is aligned to any brand, corporate agenda, anything like that. We also don't cover any topics that would cause division. So, we don't discuss politics. We will touch on spirituality, but we won't say my religion is better than your religion. We won't go down those rabbit holes, and we won't really talk about, like for example, the vaccine because it divides people. So we
Mm-hmm.
we really are interested in what makes us human, what connects us all, and these themes that you spoke about that the poets aim for is really what we after, and we're trying to find connection, and celebrate what it means to be human, and so that we feel more connected than more apart. And I think the whole world is trying to show how different we are and pull us apart, and we are trying to find the things that make us very similar, um, and so we can share our universal connection. And that's what interests us, and that's why we do what we do.
That's very beautiful, and it's I wish you continue doing that. I think it's you always kind of feel like the bad prevails the good, even if you read the newspapers, if you look at the headlines, which is also very interesting. You know, you can really sense that of course, there is a lot of, uh, let's say, psychology behind it that bad news draw more clicks and, all that stuff behind it. Um, I want to ask you, do you think there is hope for humanity in the context of the worldwide crisis? Because we speak about this division and everything, and what in that sense keep you optimistic that there is hope where this hope can be found, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I just watched a great podcast with Stephen Jenkins, and he was talking about, he's written lots of beautiful books, and he talks about hope. We mustn't, in his view, hope is quite a dangerous word, in terms that um, we mustn't falsely project hope. We mustn't say that everything is going to be okay if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
People are need to know if the planet is in trouble, like it is, if climate change is a reality, like it is, we need to be honest, and we mustn't
Mm-hmm.
pretend that just because you recycle things are going to be okay, because they absolutely are not going to be okay. And there is a deep crisis. But I, in myself, am hopeful in that I find meaning and purpose in what I do. And when we read the comments of people that watch our films, it validates the reason why we do what we do. And we've always said, if each of our films just touch one person, and someone finds meaning in what we do, then it's worthwhile, right? And so selfishly, we do what we do for ourselves because it brings purpose and meaning to our life, and we feel like we are being of service. Um, but I see the ability for people to connect. I am incredibly hopeful in humanity, in the way that people reach out to each other. People write the most beautiful things to each other. People support each other. So I know that I'm living in a little silo, in my little bubble, but in my little bubble, things are incredible and humanity is amazing. And we choose to celebrate that. But I am not naive to think if I get out of my bubble that there is a lot of other things that are happening. And when I look at nature and I look at how we treat her, sometimes I can be not hopeful for the world, but I am hopeful for the ability for humans to understand each other, connect, and support each other.
How do you recharge? Because what you do requires a lot of energy. Do you have a certain uh, practices or hobbies or activities that you allow yourself in order to refresh?
Yes, definitely. I That's why we live where we live.
Mhm.
Um, when I am in nature, when I'm away from all my digital devices, because I can get depressed, I can really go down a spiral. And so for me, my happiest moment will be in a river or hiking up a mountain or just sitting in a stream. We have these gorges, these deep valleys, these ravines that go into the mountain with
Wow.
beautiful waterfalls and pools, and there is no cell phone connection there. And just to spend a day walking up there, you feel like a little child, right? You feel like you were when you were playing on the beach and building sandcastles when the world made sense. Where you are in the moment, in the present, in the now, and everything is beautiful, and you just look around in nature and it feeds your soul. So those are the moments. I think obviously exercise, good food, company, the right people around you. But if you have none of those things, then just being alone in nature recharges my soul and gives me purpose.
Was it was it for you difficult actually to go to live off grid? I assume you lived before in a city or in more urbanized area. Was it you had a transition period, or it just was like one click and you're good to
No,
go?
no, I think we've always made decisions that, be it in what we do, where the entire world, including our parents and everyone else, said, "You are absolutely mad to leave paying jobs to create content about what it means to be human, and that there'll be enough people around the world to support you to make this dream happen." People said, "You are absolutely mad. You are crazy. Don't do it." And that's the same in terms of our other life choices. We chose to live away from the world, to leave the city, to leave our friends, to leave our family, and to move away from that. We chose to have a more difficult life in terms of living off grid. We
Mhm.
chose not to have children, for example. There's lots of decisions we have made which are very, very different to, I would say, our society and the norms.
Mhm.
But we're okay with it, um, and wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, as long as you have peace with yourself, that's the most important aspect. I had a conversation with a woman. She's from Peru. She lives in Malta, and it was also we were talking about her mother because her mother back in the 70s discovered this Hare Krishna movement. I don't know if you heard about it in Peru, and just fell in love with it. She found her path. But it happened the same with her family. They thought she is uh, they thought she is crazy, and they wanted to put her into psychiatry because I think it's amazing thing what you did that you made the choice because it as well going to through leaving a job, let's say a paid job, a stable paid job, or at the end of each month you receive a paycheck. it is scary. It is so thumbs up for you for having this bravery for making these choices. And I think even though you moved off grid, true friends, the connection will always remain. You know, we're just speaking about distance. We're not speaking that you flew to Jupiter, or which would be a bit difficult to connect with. And it's also, in my opinion, of that inclusiveness we talked about a bit earlier. You know, we should accept everyone as they are, and the choices people make is their choices. I mean, who we are, I don't know if you have noticed, but we are judgmental, and in a very fast way we judge like that. You know, you see a person dressed in a certain way, a person talking a certain way, and we already assume we know that person. When I'm pretty sure you had in your videos when you start talking and you think, okay, maybe I have an idea of that person, and then at the end of your recording you think, wow, I didn't didn't expect that coming.
Exactly.
So it's I'm very happy for you, and I'm
Thank you.
always pleasured and honored to meet people because they also inspire, and they inspire to do things they because it is possible. It's challenging, but it is possible, and
Definitely.
that is very beautiful. I want to ask you about your first video. Do you remember when you did first video, let's say for the Green Renaissance, and how did it feel doing it the first
Sure.
time?
Sure. So, um, before we went down this road of only telling stories about people, I I used to run a production company and I had, 12 employees and we used to do a lot of other work, reality TV series, more kind of blue chip nature stories, etc., etc. But always had this dream of telling, people stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first one in this particular series was just a man who lived in a caravan. His name was Tony. He lived. I knew him. He was this weird man with a big beard. He looked a bit like Father Christmas with his dog, and he lived in a caravan close to the ocean. And I was just like, why would this man make the decision to live like this? So the first story was literally just a 2 minute clip of a simple conversation with this old man, and he just talked about less is more. He unfortunately no longer is alive, he's passed away, but just hanging out with him and just chatting to him. He had this great sense of humor. He was so happy with his choices, and he had nothing. He literally lived in a caravan that someone gave him. He had a dog, and he had very little else, but he was sparkling. His eyes were still twinkling. He had this great sense of humor, and literally we just spent an hour with him, and that was the first story. And what I did in the beginning was, whenever we had a gap, maybe it was an afternoon or maybe a client paid us to be in a different country, then I'd say, in our time off, is there someone that we want to tell a story with?
Mm.
And it started like that, and it was only after a few months that we went, oh wow, this has potential, and this is really what we want to do. Let's start spending more and more time doing that. And that became now all that we do for the last 3 years or 4 years. That's the only thing we've done. But I remember Tony clearly, as I do with all of the stories. And people do pass on, and a lot of the stories we've made, at least 20 or 30 of them are no longer alive. But it's so wonderful going back and listening to them, remembering them, and yeah, it's very
keeping
special.
keeping
Yeah,
them alive,
exactly,
telling their story although they're not anymore around.
exactly.
It's really interesting how we perceive having nothing. You know, when you spoke about Tony,
Yeah,
Perhaps he had a lot, and we have nothing.
Exactly.
If you understand what I mean, if you measure everything by the material aspects you have around it, I might consider you as having very little
Exactly.
in the way you live, and another person might consider myself having a lot in the material world, but it doesn't mean that it is true. It's
I completely agree with you. You know, one of the stories that lately I did a story with a man called Shalev, this beautiful African man who lives in this tiny hut that he's built with his wife and his two young kids, and he literally just collected some rocks and some mud, and he built himself a little house. And he was, I would say, he's like one of the most enlightened gurus I've ever met in my entire life. And he just talks profoundly about love and about what it means to be human and how much he has to give. And he is just like enlightenment. But if you drove past his little house on the side of the road, you would have these assumptions about him. But he literally is like just the wisest human I've met in years. And here he is with absolutely nothing, like nothing, grows a bit of food and lives in, this tiny, tiny house with his family. But he is so enlightened. It's just incredible. So yes, in terms of breaking stereotypes and assumptions and what does it mean to be wealthy, is yeah, profoundly changed the way I see things.
You usually would run away from such people if you would see, because you would assume they are a criminal, or they might, I don't know, do some harmful things to you, because also of the perceptions we have. So also wanted to ask you, through whole your journey, what have you learned about yourself through filming these people, or how perhaps these people open certain about you that you didn't notice before?
Um, I think the biggest one of the questions I ask during the conversation is, why are you here? What is the purpose of life? Um, how do you find enlightenment? I think it's the universal
Wow.
thing that we all strive for, search for, and the common thread that has come through over hundreds of conversations has been to be of service. And it doesn't matter what that service is. It doesn't mean it needs to involve money. If your talent is to have conversations with people, have conversations with people. If it is to grow food and share that food, grow food and share that food. If you are a yoga instructor, I have a friend who goes into the prisons and he just spends an hour with prison inmates sitting silently doing some yoga. That's his being of service.
Wow.
And I think to find meaning in life is to do something that is not just for yourself. And we are blessed to have this ability to tell stories. And what is confirmed in me over these hundreds of stories is that I am being of service in doing what I'm doing, and it brings me huge meaning. It's not about
Hmm.
how many followers I have. It's not about how many people watch my films. It's not about any of that. It's being of service, listening, poetically trying to capture a moment and sharing that. And each person I meet kind of confirms that and thanks us for doing what we do, and it gives me meaning. And it's the same as being able to showcase the little things that each of these people are doing, and it's just incredible how many people are being of service and not expecting any praise, or are not like famous. They're just doing these beautiful little things, something beautiful for the world, something small, and just doing it over and over again. And for me, that's really what's important. So to answer your question, it is the confirmation that I'm on the right journey, that what I do is meaningful, that I am being of service, and I will keep doing it while I find meaning and purpose in what I do. And maybe there will become a time when do something else. But for now, this really, if I won the lottery, if we won €1 billion tomorrow, we would be doing exactly the same thing. This has got nothing. This is our purpose, and I'm just blessed to know that this is our purpose. And many people don't know what their purpose is, and for us, this is it for the moment, and we really, really appreciate knowing that.
It is important. It is important. And also important to acknowledge that if you enjoy planting and growing food, it's equally good to, I don't know, writing poetry. I mean that,
Exactly.
well, I think we also have this type of hierarchy, like which, for example, I don't know, like filmmaking is better than uh I don't know, running a jewelry store. This type of notions where they're a bit, well, when everything is, if you find, as you said, meaning in it, and that serves people, everything is equally beautiful.
Exactly.
So it's,
Exactly. It's not about your audience or how many people watch it or numbers. I think that's where people start equating success with either how much money you have or how many millions of people watch whatever it is you do. But it is those little things, the authentic moments, the conversation with the elderly person, growing some food and gifting it, looking after animals, whatever it is, it's equally as important. It really is.
now you are in a transition from green renaissance
Yeah,
to our human stories.
correct.
So, green renaissance, how did it come to life, and
Well,
when did that transition start to happen?
Well, initially we were our name used to be African Renaissance, and because we were based in Africa, Renaissance really talks about rebirth, enlightenment. We were telling stories based in Africa, people stories, and then we focused about 10 years ago only to tell environmental stories, and therefore it became green because we were only doing stories about our natural world, corporates or NGOs who were focused on the earth. Um, Green is the color of the heart, so we did keep the name when we started telling people stories. It was kind of like love, heart, and this rebirth. But Renaissance is a very difficult word to spell. It's confusing. And so, especially now that I was in Singapore, I was really thinking about things. And, in the beginning, we weren't interested in, names like what is our brand or how many people are watching us, or we just wanted to create a body of work. We wanted to create hundreds of films so that people would stumble across the story some way, and it wasn't because of a interesting brand name. But now that we've got to a point where we feel like our name is a bit confusing, yes, we have now an audience of people who watch us. We need to really communicate what it is that we do.
Mm.
And our tagline is going to become celebrating the infinite beauty of being human, because it's infinitely beautiful being human. But it is all about our human stories. It's we all have them. And I also feel with this AI coming on board, and sort of this period of uncertainty, People are a little bit scared. I think if we had to distill it down to what makes us human, it is our human stories, it's our human connection. And we want to be able to tell those stories, and we hope many other people do as well. This is not ours, we're not owning the brand, but we feel it makes a lot of sense. So if people start searching for, humanity, humanness, human stories, hopefully they'll stumble across the work
Mm-hmm.
we are doing, and that they will find meaning in it. And that's why we are pivoting in the next couple of weeks to be known as that, and not Green Renaissance, which is quite confusing and needs an explanation, right? You won't need to explain a title, Our Human Stories, because you'll watch a film and it makes complete sense.
Straightforward.
Yeah,
Straightforward. What do you
yeah.
think about AI?
Well, I'm excited, but I'm also not excited. I've been spending a lot of time listening to podcasts, listening to various experts. What I know is that the life we know it is over, the old way, and that we are living through a period, a very exciting period, but a very uncertain period. We have the ability in our lifetime, like generations before, when steam engines came into play, or like the invention of the internet, or all of those things. We are at this tipping point, and
Mm-hmm.
so we can't stop what is happening. But at the moment, personally, for myself, I'm excited that it confirms that the journey that I'm on, for me, is the right one. I know that the stories that we are telling are the stories we want to tell, and that they might help in this time where people are trying to work out what it means to be a human, and what is our past and what is important. So for us, it's really confirming that we're on the right path. But I do think that there are a lot of positives, that we might be able to work smarter, that there might be more time for people to do what they really want to do and
Mm-hmm.
find meaning, and that we could work quicker and better. And we might not be able to spend 8 hours doing something, we might spend 2 or 3 hours. Um, and hopefully, AI will be more intelligent than us in many regards. The way we treat the planet is not great. And
Mm-hmm.
and I really think that hopefully they will be so intelligent as a being that they will say, well, actually, the greatest intelligence is the intelligence of life, and that we need abundance as opposed to scarcity. That it doesn't make sense to kill one thing
Mm-hmm.
and to extract. And hopefully, their intelligence will make us treat the earth better. So I am hopeful in some ways, but I'm not naive in other ways. Um, yeah, it's a very exciting time to be alive, and I'm trying not to be anxious. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to focus on what brings me meaning without being too scared about what it means for the people I love around me, what it means for those who might lose their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. So it's a very interesting time to be alive, and I think it helps to have these conversations. I think it helps to really. It's almost like when we went through COVID, right? It was like, in a way, it paused the whole world, and it gave us opportunity to think about what it is we really wanted to do. And my advice now is that we have this tiny moment in life where we don't quite know what's happening. So if there are those things you really, really wanted to do, now's the time to take some time out. Now's the time to spend time with the person you love, or to travel, or to do those things because you just don't know what is coming down the line. So it's this kind of inflection point that is exciting but very, very scary at the same time.
Well, I see AI as a tool, as you said, as a good tool which we can rely on to help us solve certain issues and problems, obviously. I think it would not be a good master, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, in general, we are at a changing point. In general, I think it is also important to tell people more about this AI, as it should have been done about social media, because it was just released into the world, and of something which had to be beautiful and all beneficial turned out to have also a negative side on certain age groups, and in general, the addiction to the smartphones. So I think it is important to the educational part to follow it. I agree with you. It's never good or bad. There's a lot of grayish color usually between the lines, where you have to kind of understand what is also good for you. One thing which I do not agree when things are imposed. I do not agree when, for example, if I am a vegan or a meat eater or a vegetarian, that is my personal choice. I do not agree when people impose things, because all of us should have an opportunity to choose. So if you chose to live off grid, that is your choice. And if I choose to live in an urban environment, that's my choice. And in an ideal world, we should respect these choices,
Sure.
respect each other, and also be openly talk about difficult things, not to be afraid of these clashes of opinions in certain aspects, because then you can come up with something really like on certain ground on which we could both live, because like the earth is one, so we have to share it with the rest of 8 or 9 billion people. I don't know how much
Yeah.
we still have.
Yeah, I agree
The,
with you. I think the opportunity here is that what I find is that most of the people who do not like social media or who do not are not in favor of the AI, they most of them have already left the digital platform, so their voice is not heard. Um, and what we need to be doing right now is that the AI needs to see the best of humanity as well. Not only
the bad one.
all the negative comments, a lot of only the sort of shallowness of humankind. And for it to train itself in terms of saying why people are so beautiful, is to be able to see the incredible things we say to each other, how we reach out, how we connect, how, because that is so important. And what I find is most of the people I know just don't interact, right? They just say, I'm not interested in that, and I don't want to be part of it. But I do think, especially now, it's very important to show the other side so that whatever tools are being developed, it understands how beautiful we can be and how kind we can be and how empathetic we can be. So it's a bit of both, not just to say, oh, I don't want to be involved in this. It's going to be evil or whatever it is. Yeah,
You cannot escape it.
exactly.
You simply cannot escape it. You have to. You can choose the level of which you're going to use it, as you guys are doing. You chose a certain level. You have a laptop, but you don't have a
Yeah,
TV. You have certain technologies which help you also to communicate with the world and stay in touch with
mm,
what is happening in the world. So I think it's a matter of finding the right balance for you, not what the environment is telling you, not what other people are telling you. You can listen to them and sort out which makes sense for you, but at the end of the day, you have to make that decision.
correct.
The last question. The best of advice you have received.
Wow. Well, I think that ties into what I said earlier. Really, is is to be of service. I think it really isn't about material possessions or all these other things. I think if you if you distill it down to why are you here and what brings you purpose and meaning in life, is to be of service. That is how you are going to find your joy, your meaning, your purpose. And so, doesn't matter what that is is to be of service. I think makes the most sense, and because it's so wide, it can really be anything.
Hmm.
But instead of focusing on me all the time and this egocentric self, is just to help others or to help nature or to help animals or just do something of service. I think if all of us did that, and a lot of us do that, the world would be an incredibly beautiful place.
Thank you very much, Mike. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you reaching out.
Oh, thank you for you guys for finding time to